All right, so we're all good here. Can you guys see my screen? All right. All right. So what we're going to be going over is some SMT stuff. Now, this is not everything, but it's a big part of it. Okay. Uh, yeah. So let's just get into it. Enough yapping. So let's get into it, and then we'll get into some examples of this week's trades that I took using this some of this stuff, right? So what is SMT? It's a Kraken correlation. Now, there's a many forms of Kraken correlation, which we're not going over today. But here is obviously the most frequently used one and most well known. It's just a where one asset takes out a high, where the other asset fails to take out the same highs. So correlated markets create the same highs and lows, and one asset will take out the high, and then one asset won't, right? So that's going to create a higher high, while this asset creates a lower high. That is a Kraken correlation, right? So the first thing we do is when we create an SMT, is we look for a swing point, right? It's just like when we take out any or when we hit any key level. This is what we're looking for. It's a swing point, right? Because this is technically a sweep. Okay. Now SMT is like a filter for stop runs or manipulation, etc. Right? So we're still using a swing point the same way, right? So this is a key level. So I know some people a lot of the times are like, they see that I use the SMT, but they're like, where's the key level though? It's like this is the key level. SMT is a key level in a sense because one asset is sweeping. So this is the first thing we do. We look for a swing point. Now this is where a lot of people go wrong. They look at the asset that creates a lower low, right? And they want to focus on this asset only, but you actually need to reverse that, and you need to be paying attention to the asset that sweeps because this asset has to reverse. Okay? If this asset doesn't reverse, well, then that means that this asset will not reverse, right? Because markets, when they expand, all assets need to be correlated, right? So if this asset is not showing the willingness to trade away, well, this asset it is, well, they're not correlated, right? So you need, for a true reversal, all assets need to be in agreement, in support some sort of reversal or expansion, right? So all assets need to expand in order to, yeah, expand, right? Correlated markets, right? So what happens if we don't do this? What happens if we hit we sweep the asset that sweeps? It doesn't actually, reverse. Maybe it consolidates. Well, this is when I will assume that this asset is lagging behind, okay? And this asset will actually catch up to this high, right? Now, there's a couple of sequences of how this asset will catch up, and another one, this is just one of them, right? Where this asset will immediately following the sweep will create an SMT at the lows, right? And that will be the trigger for this asset to catch up. But this is not the ideal scenario, okay? This is the ideal scenario for this asset to catch up. It's actually where this asset will momentarily switch to the stronger asset to catch up to this asset, okay? And this is a form of strength switching, and that's what two-stage SMT is. It's a form of strength switching. So, like I said, like for markets to actually reverse after an SMT, they need to switch strength, right? That's how they become correlated, right? Because if markets were always stronger, if one market was always stronger than the other one, there would be no correlation, right? There would be no Kraken correlation. So this is where you see markets are constantly switching strength, uh, and this is what no one talks about, right? So this is the ideal scenario. This is one of my favorite things to see, is when one asset is switching strength, right? I can trade this as the lagging asset. It's almost like it's not guaranteed, but it's a very high probable draw on liquidity that this asset will break this SMT and it becomes a target, if that makes sense. So this is SMT. There's a lower probability. This is something that we saw on Friday, right? It's where the asset that sweeps, right, doesn't initially reverse. So we want, like, as soon as we sweep this high, we want price to reverse, right? But what if it breaks that initial high, right, where it creates a swing point? It should reverse, but it doesn't. We're creating higher highs where this SMT is still holding, right? We're only uncorrelated, or oh my god, the weaker asset is still holding its SMT, but it's a lot lower probability, right? So the only way you ever trust this type of SMT is if the strength switches, okay? So where the asset that puts in the lower low then shows some sort of switching of strength, so where this asset can catch up or like truly reverse, right? Now this is still not the ideal scenario for an SMT, but this is the only the only way I'll ever trade an SMT like this, right, where it fails to actually reverse, it's actually when the SMT will hold, but we'll have some sort of switching in strength, right? That will be the trigger for this asset to more so reverse or retrace. And a lot of times it will be in the form of some sort of retracement, right? I will never view this as a true reversal generally, right? Because really what this is like consolidation on this asset, right? Where it's like leaving these highs, it's having a failure swing here. We're sweeping a failure swing. It's not high probability, but again, you're gonna see this from time to time, and you need to be aware of it. So, but if I don't see a strength switch, guys, I will not use this. Okay. So if you don't see a strength switch, I'm not ever trusting this SMT. So that's something to note. Now here are some forms of SMT that I don't deem to be high probability. It's when both assets have failure swings. Okay. And one asset sweeps those failure swings, while the asset that doesn't is like very close to those failure swings. It's almost creating like equal highs. I will never trust this as an SMT. It's generally always going to be, it's always going to fail, right? Especially if this asset fails to reverse from here. But even so, like even if we do have some sort of, expansion lower or price does trade lower, it's generally going to be for the short term, just like this. It's going to be for the short term, and this is something you have to understand. It's a bit advanced, but some SMTs are retracements, some SMTs are true reversals, and I would never deem these as a true reversal. Okay. Another thing is, let's say we have a weekly candle, daily candle that has no wick, and one asset trades into that wickless candle and creates a wick, where one asset doesn't. So it's an SMT, but I'll never deem that as a high probable SMT. Price may expand away from that. We're going to return back to that level because price always has to return back to these wickless candles, even if there's SMT there, right? So there's a reason to return back to that level. It's the same thing over here. It's like price is so close to these highs, like there's still a reason to return back to there. Even if there's SMT, it's not going to hold generally. Okay. Now let's get into two-stage SMT. There's two forms. There's actually a mini forms, but we're just going to be going over these two forms of two-stage SMTs. So this is where it can be the same time frame. It's more so like closer proximity highs and lows. Okay, so we can pretend that maybe you have like a 4-hour fair value gap in this like the 15-minute time frame or something, and we confirm a reversal from a key level with SMT obviously, but immediately following the asset that swept is now creating lower lows. Okay, or like failure swings. Now this is like I said, like the two-stage SMT where we have like closer proximity, swing highs and lows, and it doesn't have to always look like this, but this is kind of the ideal scenario, right, where it does switch strength, right? So I know some people will use an SMT where like it's like a double sweep, so it's like this asset will sweep again. That's not the ideal two-stage SMT, okay, because it doesn't switch strength. There's no switching in strength, so it's ideal that it forms like this, right? This is the ideal scenario. Okay. Now it doesn't have to be with the first failure swing that created the SMT. It can be in the distribution leg away from this, right? Showing some sort of switching of strength. Doesn't matter. But it's going to be with closer proximity highs and lows. Now, this is another form of two-stage SMT. It's going to be where the first SMT is an SMT that's very far off to the left. Okay. So we can imagine that this is the hourly chart. This is like a daily swing point high, or maybe a fair value gap low or something. Price goes into it and creates an SMT with it. Okay, so it's an SMT that's very far off to the left. So a lot of times this SMT can break, right? Where this SMT is like it's going to be an SMT at one point where maybe this asset will just break it and it'll also hit this high. How do you know it's not going to break? Well, we can essentially confirm the SMT with an SMT, and ideally, what do we want to see? Strength and switching in the strength rate. Or strength switching. Sorry, I can't talk. So it's gonna be the same thing where it almost looks like a roof, right? Where it's like we have the asset sweeping and then immediately following we're creating a fair swing. Same thing. It kind of looks like a roof, right? But like I said, it's gonna the first SMT is like a higher time from SMT, or maybe a large range SMT followed by a lower time from SMT or small range SMT. Okay, and this is what it's gonna look like over here for the asset that creates that higher time from failure swing. And I see a lot of you guys will, again, it's the same thing where like you see a double sweep. Yeah, although that is two-stage SMT, it's not the ideal scenario. Okay. So how do we know that assets are switching in strength? There's a couple ways. These are not all the ways, but these are majority of them. Okay. Um, so immediately following the asset that sweeps, okay, we can measure strength switching via gap size. So like I said, immediately following this asset that sweeps, they're going to both displace away from it, but this asset, the one that swept, is creating a larger gap, showing strength, right, or showing weakness, right, compared to the asset that created a failure swing, right. So again, markets, the one that swept originally was stronger will momentarily switch to the weaker asset to catch up to this asset, so they can become correlated, right. That's what a true reversal actually looks like. So now another one is gap fill. So this is gap size. This is gap fill, where this asset will not fill in an entire gap, while this asset will. Again, that's showing weakness on this asset. They're going to create the same highs and lows, the same opposing candles, where this asset will close below low while this asset won't. This asset will CST first while this asset won't. And it's going to like close below this low, but this asset closes before this asset, So that's showing the strength, the switch in strength, if that makes sense. So they're going to create the same displacement legs, right? Where maybe this displacement leg is larger, or the retracement, back within the range, back within the displacement leg is much more shallow compared to this asset, right? That's another form of strength switching. And this is what happens when you put it all together, right? Where this asset creates the original sweep, right? And the distribution away, because remember, we're trying to look at the asset that actually sweeps, okay? We want it to switch strength ideally, okay, momentarily to the weaker asset. And this is what's going to look like. It's going to be expanding. Well, this asset is like having more of like deeper runs, or, pretty much like all of this stuff, right? Or maybe it's like consolidating while this one's expanding. Now, what do we not want to see? We do not want to see this asset expanding while this one is like expanding or consolidating. We don't want to see that, because those are two markets fighting each other. This one will be more so like lackluster. Well, this one is more so expanding, right? That's so they can catch up. This asset will more so slow down. Well, this asset is like expanding to catch up. Does that make sense? So that's all they have for this. Like I said, this isn't even close to all of it, but I did want to show this. So now let's get into some examples, and let's get into some examples. So if we look at NQ, let's go on Friday actually. Let's go on Friday. So what do we see here? If I go on ES, so let's look at ES here. We see there's the SMT right here. That gets created right here. So this is what I want to see. I want to see this asset switch to the weaker asset and expand away. If this is going to be a true reversal, right? What do we see? It more so is like bullshits. It just like consolidates. So what does that mean? That this high is going to break, right? And generally, I wouldn't trust this SMT ever until I see a strength switch. So what are we going to see here? If I go on like the 15-minute or something, like the 30-minute, you see this 8 o'clock high on this asset. It gets taken. All over here, it does not. So here's the 8 o'clock or 8:30 high. I can probably just make this easier to see. This is the SMT that we're seeing. See that? So this is the strength and switch. Like now we can confirm that markets can trade back into this range and target some sell side liquidity. But you have to understand this is probably a retracement. Okay. And if I look at this asset as well, it's like, what are we leaving behind? It's like markets don't reverse like this, man. Like they're not gonna leave these equal highs like this, and then like leave these equal highs as well. It's not high probability, right? So these equal highs here, it's not gonna do it, right? We didn't manipulate this high either. We're just consolidating, right? Which is a continuous signature. Both in that consolidation, we're making an opposing run. So what I waited for, so like I know some of you guys traded this, so this is why now you know why it worked though, So if you didn't have this switching strength, you can't trade that, So what I waited for was at some sort of two-stage SMT at the lows to trade back into these highs, right? But I traded YM, right, to get to these highs, right? And you see that. What do we see here? YM trades into these lows first. You see this? So we have an SMT here, right? And what we're going to see is these assets NQ creates a new low of day, or ES does not create a new low of day. So that's one, that's another SMT, right? But what are we seeing over here? This is a two-stage SMT in itself, right? Because look at this 8 o'clock candle, or was it 9 o'clock or something? So 9 o'clock candle, we're creating a lower low. It's the low. This is the low of the day, 9 o'clock candle. But over here, 10 o'clock is the low of day. Okay, so this is a form of strength switching. So that's why I traded YM, and that's how I know it's going to expand into this high. And you even see this, bro. It's like it's strength switching constantly. So check here is a bearish candle. Over here, it's bullish. That's how another form of strength switching, right? But I know that this asset is going to trade into this high first, right? And that's why it has the most explosive move to the high when you compare the other assets, right? We hit this high over here, or when did we hit this high? So like right here. And over here, yeah, we didn't even hit the high, right? So YM hit the high first. Now there's a couple of different reasons why I chose YM, but I know a lot of people were trying to take, you guys are trying to take something in here, I think, right? Like, I don't even remember, man. Something in here. But what do we see? It's actually before that, actually. You guys are trying to trade something, fucking hell. There's like YM, like right here. Like this CSD or some shit. There's another thing about SMT. Like there's so much thing about SMT, but you see how we CSD on this asset or whatever? When I go to the other assets, it's just chop. You see this chop? It's chop. When I go to RTY, it's leaving equal lows. So it's like, in order for markets to expand, what do we need? We need all the markets to show that sign of reversal. So what does that tell you? If this asset's showing the willingness to trade away, but the other ones are not, it's not going to reverse, right? This is not going to reverse. So what do you demand? Is an SMT at these lows, ideally, right? Because if this is consolidation, then I want an SMT at these lows or something, right? So that's why the market didn't reverse here, anything like that, and actually traded into all these lows. Like look what we have, right? We have all these lows here. It's not going to reverse on NQ, so that means it's not going to reverse on YM. Does that make sense? So like I said, there's a lot more of it we can go over, but that's why I traded YM and why you could potentially trade this counter trend trade right here on ES. Now, why did I trade YM on this day, Thursday? Okay, so if you go to the daily chart here, just look at the kind of like the retracement size on YM. So it's very large, right? When I compare it to like, we don't even trace a little bit over here, right? If you look at right here, we're like barely retracing. While on YM we have this huge retracement. ES, we also have retracement. But I want you to look at the weakest asset. Like what kind of signature do we have on even the weakest asset? We have more of a retracement signature, right? It's very lackluster. Like we're leaving all these highs very slow in its move lower. Like look how many candles it took. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to make the displacement higher. And there's like 20 candles right here. So it's like it's a retracement, right? So even on the weakest asset, it's a retracement. So what's the trigger for this asset to expand? Like what's the trigger for all the assets to expand? Well, it's this asset to switch strength to the strongest one, right? Which we can see that a couple different ways. So I think here, yeah, so check this out. Here, the 2M candle is bullish, right? Where over here, it's bearish, right? And at that time, NQ is trading into a relevant low. Like this is where I want price to reverse on NQ, you know? So that's what we see, right? Where the market's already starting to reverse on YM. And what does that tell you? Strength switching is happening. And, this asset will catch up to the other assets. So, in order, like, which one to trade, the strongest, weakest, it generally doesn't matter because all the assets are going to get to the same area. Now, there's a couple different sequences, which we're not going to go over today, but if we look here, if we check this out, right? So this happened early on in the day, like where the daily is opening low first as well. So a lot of this stuff, like candle profiling that's in my course, like this stuff is very important as well, right? This the way the daily candle is supporting this bullish move, right? There's no established high of the day, right? So the protraction phase, we have that strength switching, but do you see how I'm getting biased via correlated markets? Like this is how I'm getting biased. There's a lot more stuff, but this is one of the ways, right? And we see that 9 a.m. reversed here. See how 9 a.m. reversed? Now check this out here. Look on the 5-minute chart here. You're gonna see that we take out this low, which is an SMT. We do this prior to 9:30. So if we do this prior to 9:30, what should 9:30 do? It should expand, right? And now what do we have here? Whoops. How do I? Oh yeah. What do I have here? A 2-stage SMT, right? If I go back over here, this is the ideal scenario for a 2-stage SMT. Whether you view it like this, where it's like a larger time frame SMT, shorter, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. It's switching its strength. Like that's what actually matters, right? This here. And once I see that, this is the trigger for the true reversal. If you actually look here, this is actually when price actually expands. Where all this chop and stuff, you can typically avoid that, right? So we have a true reversal at the lows, and we kind of expand away from it, and we get seek and destroy. This is not a reversal signature, guys. Seek and destroy, after an expansion or a true reversal, that's never a reversal signature. All right, so there's always a continuous signature. What is the trigger for a continuation? SMT, always SMT. Okay, so I'm demanding this stuff every time. And this is why I traded, right? So 10 a.m. intra-candle change of state delivery. This is one of the types of, this is not intra-candle change of state delivery, but it kind of is to me. It's a different form where it's like prior to the candle open, we have opposing candles already in play. So this can look a couple different ways. Maybe we expand in the previous candle and retrace, and the candle is opening here, right? We're like we already retraced the previous candle and hit a key level. So like the next candle, it doesn't need to retrace more because we're already in a key level. We're already retraced. So when the candle opens and then closes above these opposing candles, it's basically the low of this candle is supported or kind of like not supported but protected by these opposing candles, if that makes sense, that were formed from the previous candle. So that's what we have here. So like I'm assuming that 10 a.m. low will form between this range here. It can go and form a new low. Like here's the 10 a.m. low right here. It can come and form that. But I'm anticipating that this low should hold, right? So this is what you see. Kind of chops around for a bit, and that is the trigger for price to expand, right? And I'm TPing this here. I'm TPing this when we reach this high, or this high over here on NQ. So as soon as we reach this high, I'm TPing on YM. Now I want you to see what happens though. So look how we're creating higher highs. What are we doing on NQ? Whoops, it's lagging. Hold on. We're creating lower lows. We're retracing while this asset is doing what? Expanding. Why? Because it has to catch up to this high, right? Not random or anything like that. This is truly how the markets actually move, right? With logic. So this is how I'm viewing the market, guys. And we can go over a couple different ones as well. This is my last one I'm going to go over because I want like 30 minutes of, what do you call it here? Questions. So check this out here. Here's our large time from SMT. Here's your large time from SMT where I go to RB. We're taking out Tuesday's low, right? So what do we want to see though? If this is going to have some sort of true reversal. So when I say true reversal, I mean we're gonna actually like get a reaction from this. It doesn't mean we're going to expand and make new highs. This could be a retracement or a true expand or true reversal, right? So anytime I'm trading counter trend like a retracement, I'm requiring this stuff. Like this is my filter for price, So you have to understand that this is a retracement day or some sort of retracement because this is the opening price of the daily candle, right? It has a very large wick. When you're trading a reversal day, has a very large opposing run, it's generally not going to get all the way up here, right? So I want to, target ideally back within this candle's range, and I already have a video on this, but ideally I want to be involved in here to target EQ, like, premium of that range, right? It's never a guarantee. A lot of people think it's a guarantee that we're going to go up here. It's not a guarantee, okay? So that's just one thing, right? But what do we see here? Originally, we're creating that higher high. We momentarily switch to the weakest asset and create a lower low here. So this is what? This is this, right? Large time for S&T followed by a smaller range SMT. But it's this version over here where the higher time frame SMT is a failure swing. Okay. So you need this to happen, right? This is the trigger for the other assets to have some sort of, like I said, they're switching strength to have some sort of bullish reaction, right? Because they were weak. They're actually weaker, but they're showing some sort of strength. So all markets can have this run back in the range. Does that make sense? And this is my TP. It's just this relevant high, or this swing point high within EQ of this range here, and it's below the daily open. So here's the daily open right here. All right, so that's my TP there, and that's what I traded this day. We can even look at this day, man. It's like it's kind of funny. So look here, like do you see how on this asset it's a shallow retracement? When I go to like RB or CL, it's much more deeper, or much more deeper retracement. But on the weakest asset that created the deepest retracement, we can look at signatures and price, right? We're like blending things, where we see failure swings. So what is that generally? That's going to be some sort of retracement signature, right? But notice these candles over here. When I go like the 15-minute chart, whatever. See how we're creating higher highs, we're displacing higher. What about on the weakest asset? What are we doing? Or sorry, the strongest asset, we're creating lower lows. Right over here on the weakest one, we're creating a higher high now. So that's a form of strength switching, right? Where originally, right, we were stronger over here, but now we're weaker, just momentarily, so that this asset can catch up. Does that make sense? So like you need to start acquiring these things. There's a lot more to it, but this is generally a lot of things that I'm looking at, right, to determine true reversals. So probably wrap it up there, man. And yeah, that's all we're gonna be going over today for SMT. But let's get into some questions. Win keep tag. I don't even know how to put that on my chart, man, or put that on my Discord. I'm like a Discord, like I don't know shit about Discord, bro. I'm like Unk for real. You should share Clash Royale Claymore. Yeah, I actually can. Let's do it. You ready for this? Buddy. That voice for me. What if I was muted this whole fucking time? Wait, no way. Oh, never mind. This is when I was okay. Thank God, bro. I'm trying to find when the question started. I am recording, right? Yeah. Alright, so I already went over this, right? So you're entering YM. Like when you actually looking at an asset that is showing strength, the other assets need to show sign of reversal. But what do we see at this point? When I go to like NQ or some shit, was that Friday or yeah, it was. Like look at where you're trading. Look at NQ at this point. Like it's just consolidating, right? Where YM may be showing some sign of reversal, right? But if the other assets are not, it's not going to reverse, Not necessarily. You don't have to trade the asset the sweeps. Like I said, there's some things to it. But like I said, if you see strength switching, all the assets are going to reverse. So it doesn't really matter. But if one asset is super close to a high, for example, where like it was originally stronger and then it switched momentarily to weaker, you can still trade that one because it's super close to the high. It's like it's still gonna get there, And like I said, you don't want to see this. Like I don't want to see assets fighting each other. Let's say we have a true reversal or something, and then we have this SMT. Like I don't want to see this while this asset's doing this. No, I don't want to see that. I want to see this asset more so. I want to see it reverse, but be like more lackluster, like make deeper retracements, or make like with these short-term highs, SMT like this, where this asset is putting a lower low in, these like more like shallow or what am I trying to say, like minor switching in strength. I don't want to see like major fight, like resistance and price, if that makes sense. I don't want to explain it. I don't have slides on that necessarily, but whoops. It's kind of hard to explain when I haven't explained everything. You know, it's like kind of hard. I had 2 of those slides before the world did. Oh, I think I shared on X or something. I don't know. I'm late. Could you show the SMT with YM and NQ? Took NQ, but YM looked better for shorts and long yesterday. Looked better for shorts. I'm late, but could you show the SMT with YM and NQ? What SMT with YM and NQ? I don't really know what you're talking about. You're talking about the lows? I didn't short yesterday. Can you show the slide number 2, measuring strength? Sure. Right here. So it's like immediately following the SMT, we're going to displace more aggressively, right? When originally it was stronger, now it's weaker. Where it's just measured via gap size, and then another way we can measure it is with this asset filling in a whole gap while this asset doesn't. There's many different forms of strength switching, you know. Bro. Can you do side-by-side charts? I don't use side-by-side charts. Like, I hate that shit. Like, it actually bothers me to like so much. But if that like, helps you necessarily learn, I could start doing it maybe. Do you use 3 minutes CC on YM? 5 minute, I think. And it wasn't even, didn't even have to do with the fractal model necessarily. Like, with this specific trade on YM. Like, not necessarily, it didn't have anything to do with fractal model. But it was still a 4-hour expansion candle. See this? Here's the 2-stage SMT that we saw. So if one asset takes a low for SMT, and then after the asset leaving a low, that's indicating, yeah, exactly. So just like literally right here, right? It took out the low here, but later on it's creating a higher high. Yep, works on same as silver. Now, there's a couple ways. Like, there's gonna be markets that are like uncorrelated, and you know, there's like so many things with SMT where it's like it's really hard to put. I don't have slides for everything. There's so many different scenarios, man. It just comes with experience, but maybe we'll go over them. But yeah, there's gonna be times where like markets look like this, right? Where YM was creating a super deep retracement where like these assets were like not even retracing, you know? There's a lot of things to go over. Can you go over the loss you took on ES? Oh yeah. Yeah, when did I take that loss? Like Monday or some shit? ES. I don't even remember when I took it. Oh yeah. I think I took it right here, right? Or some shit. On the 30-minute or hourly. It's like a gap in here. Yeah, so I took this candle here. Look why I didn't trust this SMT. It's literally because of we created the SMT here, I think, right? Yeah, it's like we created the SMT here, and you see how it broke? Like, it didn't even do shit. It's like I'm not caring about this SMT at all, you know? That's why I didn't really view it as something that was really relevant, like at all. So that's why I didn't necessarily treat it as, like I said, anything relevant. So I was actually trading a candle 2 in here when it hit this gap. So like I'm expecting the market to do this. Like I want price to reverse from this low to get and break this SMT high. Right? So when I go to 5 minute here, you're gonna see that there is a two-stage Kraken correlation here, where we take out this low here, right? And then later on at 9:30, like right before 9:30, we create this SMT at the lows. So you see how we take out this low here? And I think it's with YM, by the way. So the first SMT is with YM, as you see, and then we're creating a SMT like this, right? So I'm already in this trade when I see this SMT, and then when I actually re-enter, like when you see this, when I see 930 expand away, and then re-tap this area, I actually get in again. And I figured this was going to be a good trade, right? Because if you look at here, and it was a good trade. Like it went 2R, but I didn't even take a partial, bro, because I'm not expecting this to reverse here. Like it doesn't make sense to me, but it did. You know, that happens. I could have went PE potentially, like maybe, but I stopped here. But yeah, you know, that happens, right? That's what I took, and I will take that loss every fucking day of the week. Like any day, I will take that trade, any day, you know. But still gave a decent reaction, you know. Decent little reaction there. But yeah, I don't know why it reversed. Couldn't even tell you. I don't even care. Doesn't actually matter. You don't have to justify every reversal in the market and every loss. I don't know if it's a tall task, but I think adding difficulty ratings on your trading would help a lot. Like if it's trade difficult. Oh, like counter trend and stuff. Oh, okay. Yeah, potentially. There's definitely some days where it's not gonna make sense to a lot of you guys. Like here's like a good example. If you go to like this day, fuck, what day was it, man? It was this day right here. Look on YM. So I traded this day. Like it's very counter trend. Like we actually have a one-sided narrative where we manipulate a range low or a relevant low. The weekly opens low into it, and we manipulate it, and we're expanding away. Like this, when you're fading this, like this type of draw, like low resistance, like you have to require a two-stage SMT. Like you have to require it. You know, that's what I did here. So if you look here on ES, we take out the previous week's high, so that's your first stage SMT, but it's a failure swing. Like it's very low probability. So what am I requiring? I'm requiring more. I'm always going to require like more confirmation, if that makes sense. So here's your first stage SMT. Here's your small range SMT. Right? So you see, it's that two-stage SMT. It looks like this, right? This exactly. Whoops. Oh, I fucking passed it. This pretty much. Large strand from SMT, small range SMT. Now there's some extra confirmation, but we haven't went over that. And I'm trading YM because it's the weakest one, and it doesn't have a wick yet. So when you think about trading reversal days or reversal candles, right? They open high first, right? So that's supporting my narrative here. The way the candle is forming is supporting this reversal, and then I'm just trading that 10 a.m. candle with that small wick, right? So the 2-stage SMT is, you know, the high of 10 a.m. is formed from the 2-stage SMT, right? It's very high probable. And then I can TP at the current day's low right here because it's a gap, right? So that is a trade that I would rate a 10 out of 10. That's like on the hard scale because it's very kind of trend, you know, super kind of trend. You know, I bet like a lot of people are like, that looks super low probability, but they don't use this type of, they don't have this confirmation. You know what I'm saying? Like it's low probability for sure, right? It definitely is. It's counter trend, absolutely. Now, when you're trading pro trend to a higher time frame model, this is where you require less confirmation. So here you have a one-sided narrative, right? The weekly opens low into this. You have your reversal, etc. Like within on the lower time frame in this distribution leg, I don't have to have two-stage SMT because it's within higher time frame. It's supported by higher time frame narrative, you know. So I don't have to have it. But if I'm counter trend, you have to demand more, you know. If that makes sense. YM took my frame. Oh yeah. That's why I traded. I traded YM to those highs. Great info. I feel like this is the missing piece. Yeah, it's definitely gonna help for sure. Like even with SMT, like it can be pattern traded, you know. Like anything can be pattern traded. So like you really need this like extra confirmation and but I'm telling you guys like the framework and stuff comes first. Like then you confirm with SMT and stuff like that. You know. Like I said, it gets deeper than this, but you know, we're starting here, you know. Can't just throw everything at you. Also just don't have enough time an hour. Can you please give some FX examples? If I had them marked up, like I don't have time to. I only have like 15 more minutes. I don't have time to like go look for these things, but because I have a bunch of questions to answer. But I bet Ian can help you with that because I don't even trade forex or look at them. But you're gonna see the same thing, you know, more than likely. Uh, Gold made a C2 on Thursday, followed by deeper trades on Friday. Does that mean we should target Thursday's low now? Let's see. Oh yeah, more than likely, right? Because when I think about a true reversal, like if this is gonna be a true reversal, I don't want to see this super deep retracement. But if you look at my trade here, I traded this exactly here, and you can measure strength because this asset is waking this low while this asset is closing below this low, right? This is one way we can view switching a strength. But how do you know that we're gonna get a reaction from this low, right? So it's like, how do you know when this asset is going to start to retrace? Right? Because we didn't start to retrace after we take out this low. It's when the other correlated asset takes out this low, you know? And how do you know we're going to get a reaction from here? Is when you see some sort of switching in strength. So check this out here, right? 3 o'clock is the low of the day. The low of the day over here is 2 o'clock. So that's a form of two-stage SMT or strength switching. So it's very key. Like I'm not just making this shit up, just throwing it out there out of my ass to make some new concepts or anything like that. No, this is like really what I use, you know. So if you look at the high of day, I'm trading a reversal candle, right? Long wick. How does it have to form? It has to open low first, right? And then the low of the day essentially is formed from uh, this daily swing point, pretty much, basically. But the trigger for reversal is some sort of strength switch, which is what I traded, you know. And you're gonna even see like right here, with any distribution away from this, what do we have here? We have two-stage cracking correlation via candles. So I didn't add this in the slideshow, but just go look at it, right? Just go from the weakest asset to the strongest asset. This is what I'm trading. It's just the fractal model, but on crack, essentially. Right, so here you see higher high, higher low. You know, so it's going to take some time to train your eyes, but this is what I'm targeting. It's these fair swings just above the daily open. Boom, that's my trade. Very simple, right? That's some insight why I traded that day when price is taking a low high for SMT. Does it have to be a swing point? No, well, a gap. It can be like a gap on a higher time frame, which is a lower time frame swing point. So it's always a swing point essentially. There's a different types of SMT too. Like there's body SMT, but again, it's not. I don't even want to teach that because I don't really use it that much. It's when it's called hidden SMT. It's when one asset fails to close below a low, which you always need a two-stage cracking correlation when you're trading this type of thing. So I wouldn't even like refer to it, man. But you kind of see here, like 22 high over here. You can see that like on this asset we close above this high, but over here we don't. Whoops. But it's the lowest probable SMT essentially. Like ideally you see an SMT with this low and body SMT. Like that's a high probable SMT. Where like maybe we had an SMT, it would actually be viewed like kind of like a higher high, but it's also body SMT. If that makes sense. That's high probable SMT. But I don't even want to get to that. But yeah, just stick to swing points honestly, because even gaps are lower time frame swing points. Regarding the swing, Garrett, if you're looking at NQ and ES, would you have determined the low to be swept? Don't consider. Wait, what's your question here? Oh, would I require this to be swept? No. There's a two-stage SMT. Now, one thing you have to understand about this, like Friday's PA or something, is we're coming off of some sort of expansion. So even this day here, it's like seek and destroy, which is a type of continuation signature. Whenever you see seek and destroy after expansion, that's a type of continuous signature. So like when I saw this happen, like when if I go on ES here, when I saw price fail to take out this high right here, it's like, okay, I'm not even gonna try to long anymore, because now it's just a clear seek and destroy pattern, because we already started that type of pattern, and now we're just continuing it, right? Where NQ is obviously reversing back in the range, which I don't want to see. So it's just like bullshits. That's how you know it's gonna bullshit for the rest of the day. So like I take my one attempt here, and I know it's like still in that, pattern or whatever you want to call it. So like I don't even want to attempt to be in that, and that's what you see for the rest of the day. It's like complete dog. But it's after expansion. You see the same thing here, essentially. Where like we expand into something and we consolidate. That's a continuation signature, right? So when I'm seeing this over here, like you're seeing this SMT here, but it's not really valid, like, because on this asset we're just in a consolidation. Like one way to leave a consolidation is like an internal manipulation of the consolidation, which you can only do in expansion. Like, because in expansion, like price doesn't have to manipulate necessarily. It doesn't have to do this in an expansion. It doesn't actually have to do that, because remember, this is a continuous signature. But what you might have is something like this. You have an internal manipulation, but this is lower probability, right? So what do you require? Two-stage SMT, right? So that's what I'm doing. Like I understand that I'm in a consolidation. Like I know that I'm bullish here overall. This is just like a counter trend move, but I'm requiring a two-stage SMT, to trade back to this high, which NQ never even got there, right? But YM did, it broke all these highs and stuff. So confusing for sure, but it just takes time, man. Like, in Thursday HO trade, you demand the 6 a.m. 4-hour candle to sweep previous Thursday. Did I go for Thursday? Thursday. Oh, it's not necessarily with the previous 4-hour candle. It doesn't have to do that, but that is a higher probable thing to see, right? Is SMT between the previous 4-hour candle low, which is just a swing point on the hourly time frame, I believe, right? Yeah, it is. Right, but it's what's important is the switching in strength, It's not just like SMT between previous 4-hour candle high and low. If you look at this day, like, why did I not trade this day? Well, like, I know some people are trying to long this day. Like, it does give some sort of long, but it's never going to be in some expansive way, because look at HO. It's not showing any sign of reversal, right? Look how close we are to these lows. So it's like I can't frame a bullish day on this asset. There's a couple reasons why. That's one way. But the other way is, how does this day really kind of form? Kind of opens high first, sweeps at this high. You can see it over here. Sweep this high, and then it opens low again. You see, it's just seek and destroy almost, right? It's going to be a small range day. You can kind of anticipate that, because it's inside barring between the previous high and low. Like, look how big this range is. So like, this is maybe a stream for another time, like how to identify low probable days, how to filter price. A lot of it is basis of price and correlated markets, not being in alignment for expansion. But yeah, at HO, it's fire. How do you guys wait for low time from candle close? Wait, what? How do you guys wait for a lower time from candle to close? Or do you wait? Oh, you have to wait for the swing point, the higher time from swing point to close. And then we're just waiting for lower time from candles to close that create order blocks, right? That confirm the highs and lows of swing points. So the fractal model, right? T-Trade's candle, or in its course, you're going to see that there's two types of swing formations, right? The one you're referring to is like a candle 2. You're going to wait for this to close. Now within this is like horrible drawing, but we're going to have some sort of reversal. Here's your, within that swing point, you want a 5-minute candle close, confirming the reversal, like a CSD, right? And then we're waiting for an intracandle chain to stay delivery, which is also a 5-minute close, which just confirms the low of candle 3. That was the worst drawing ever. It's because I'm on a daily chart. But yeah. Hopefully that makes sense. Do you ever use RTY? No, never with NQ and ES, but I do with YM. So it's gonna be so basically when YM is like in its own freaking world, because it's sometimes gonna happen right where markets are uncorrelated. Um, I'm not gonna refer to NQ and ES with YM. I'm gonna refer to RTY, and if I want to trade RTY by itself, I'm gonna refer to YM. All right, that's how I do it. Do you have a lower time frame that you like to look at? You can use like standard time frame alignment almost, or what you could do is maybe you have like a daily fair value gap, wait for an hourly swing point. Within that hourly swing point, this is where you're gonna see that switching in strength, right? So the lower time frame will be like always the 3 minute, 5 minute, because I'm always referring to a 30-minute or hourly swing point to confirm reversals from any key level, like a daily, like literally any key level, you know. So like you're gonna have the strength and the switching strength within that swing point on the lower time frame essentially. We are learning about inverse fair value gap. It's crazy, dude. I could make the sickest inverse fair value gap strategy of all time. It would just occur after like SMT, like some true reversal. At lower time frame, like 3 minute, 5 minute, we can see SMT with side up. Oh yeah, exactly. With by side candles. That's one way. Yeah, it's gonna form like that sometimes. Yeah. It is possible to turn off the chat while in full screen. How do you do that? I'm a bot, bro. Like notification settings show my own camera. Oh, he's asking that. Okay. Do you determine switch at every reversal? No, not every reversal. This is something that we're gonna go over maybe later. There's a time and place to look for it, but this is something you're gonna see like a lot. So like, let's go over this example on YM. Okay, it would happen a couple weeks ago. It's like how do I know this is a fake SMT? So you see this high right here. It gets taken out on ES and NQ a long time ago, right? So it's like as soon as we create an SMT, what do we want to see? If this is a true reversal, I want to see this asset reverse, obviously, right? But what do we see? Here's the SMT, by the way. You see it's a lower low over here. What do we do on these assets? We consolidate, right? So what does that mean? I'm not going to trust it. I'm not going to trust this SMT. What's the ideal scenario for price to catch up? It's this. The asset that was lagging actually switches strength to the stronger asset. So what do we see here? Boom. Look at this Friday low, creates a higher high over here. Whoops, it's not registering, hold on. Creating a lower low. Right, so that is momentarily switching to the stronger asset to catch up. Now, even within this day, you have a 2-6 SMT. Here's your higher time from SMT, followed by your lower time from SMT. Right? So there's your 2-6 SMT. Now I want you to see something else. If I go on the 30-minute chart here, this was what I was targeting personally. It's a reversal day. So I'm targeting back within the candle's range, right? And I don't truly know if we're going to go all the way up here within the same day. Like, you never really know necessarily. So this is a safe target because there's no wick here. 930, we're pairing this with the reversal, right? So 930 trades in this level. And it hits this low, or creates this S&P like late inside of the 30-minute candle, the 930 candle. So it's not likely to, it's obviously not going to reverse because it's hitting that late. So in this scenario where like the driver is trading to a level, and then TNM is kind of opening up like right after, this is when I want to see TNM reversal. So this is when I actually ideally want TNM reversal. There's a big difference between certain TNM reversals between this one. This is an ideal TNM reversal, but now it's just GXT, right? I have to wait for this candle to close anyways because 6 a.m. doesn't support expansion. So I'm waiting for this candle to open, and it's a reversal candle. And here's the SMT, right? Where originally we're stronger, now we're just short-term weaker. And you're going to see that within this SMT, you're going to see that NQ gets this high first. It actually trades into this high first, right? So wait, hold on. Oh yeah, let me play this a little bit more. So this is the high that I was targeting, right? But you're gonna see the NQ gets here first, which creates an SMT. So that's one switch in strength, right? Now you're gonna see happen again on the lower time frame, where this asset's gonna switch to the stronger asset to catch up to NQ. How do we know it's gonna catch up? Look on NQ. What is it doing? It's just bullshitting, right? It's just consolidating. See that? So that's how you know it's fake. When I go to YM, it's gonna be like this subtle switch in strength. You see how we're more so in a kind of like a expansion-ish, while this asset's more so sideways. You can even see it. Like look at these down close candles. Over here we don't have any down close candles, so it's very subtle. But this is just a fractal model, right? Like it's very simple, right? Where I go over here, you have a candle 2. I'm trading candle 3, but it's the strength switch that actually confirms this gonna work. You know, that we're actually going to go into this draw liquidity. That's what actually confirms it. So this is the opposing candles that creates the 30-minute wick, and then I can trade into this high. Like I said, this is one of my favorite things to see, because it's not a guaranteed draw liquidity, but it's very high probable, you know. And like I said, like you want this to switch strength, but you don't want it to be expanding lower. You still want it to be like console or like having some sort of continuous signature, because if it actually expanded lower, then that would be a true reversal, you know. So it's gonna be confusing at first, like for sure. Like I can already tell that I'm gonna get a lot of questions. It's gonna be hectic, but you guys, you're gonna get it down, man. Gee, do you spend most time monitoring 1 hour 30-minute time frame waiting for? Yeah, so like you guys see the way I trade. I don't actually require this like higher time frame profiles or the cleanest higher time frame this or that, because the way we view models is like internal to external, some sort of manipulation and trading to the opposing side of that, or ERL, RL, etc. But I can do that, but on the 1 hour and 4 hour time frame, supported by the daily candle profile, right? So there is no longer like the way I view daily profiles. It's not really a daily it's like a candle profile. It's like how this candle is actually forming, and then the daily profile is like whenever we put in the low of day. That's all that is. So, you know, if we put in the low of day in London, well, for that to be an actual London reversal, like the candle profile needs to support that, you know. So like I will trade, you know, 1 hour and 4 hour models. So like these shorter term drawn liquidities, just supported by the higher time frame candle, you know, where I will require these 2-stage SMTs and stuff to kind of make up for that lack of higher time frame narrative. So that's why you see me get a lot of opportunities. I miss a lot of trade due to the CSD being far from candle close, and if I enter market, I don't get enough RR. I miss a lot of trade due to the CSD being far. Oh, I see. There's a couple different things you can do. So let's say this is your CSD like this. I know what you're talking about. Maybe there's a fair value gap here. Like you could enter on the fair value gap, because the reversal is already confirmed. You know, so like if there's a fair value gap, you can enter on that. Another thing you do is like maybe you can even wait for a lower time frame candle 2 to enter from the fair value gap, so like extra confirmation or something. That's in TJ's course. Or you can just wait for a smaller ranged opposing candle. Now that I think maybe like next stream I can go over entries, because there's different things we look for with entries as well, like for filtering price. Like not entering in the premium end of an expansion candle, or after we take out a specific higher low or some shit like that. You know, there's a lot of stuff, bro. Bro, you skipped my question. Sorry. I don't know. Oh, was your entry on YM Friday position entry? Yeah, like I said, it wasn't even a fractal model necessarily, but it kind of was. Like, it's kind of weird because if you look over here, like there's a swing point. Oh fuck, where are we at, dude? Yeah, like right here, right? Yeah, like there's a swing point on this asset, but over here it looks like this. It looks really shit. But again, there's 2-stage SMT and there's a strength switch, so it makes it valid. So I'm like bending the rules. Like I'm trading my approach, but I'm not requiring this mechanical process. Because I would get left behind. Right? I don't have a valid Kino 3. Now this takes experience, like for sure. So it's not really a positional entry necessarily, because there's no like it's not mechanically a swing point, you know. But it requires like experience and more confirmation, if that makes sense. Can you go through those slides one more time? Well, I'm gonna upload this, so don't worry. Something just clicked. NQ takes a high. NQ doesn't, creating SMT. However, ES switch rate. NQ takes a high. ES doesn't, creating SMT. However, ES could not string switch well. NQ consolidates, showing ES to catch up. When was that again? ES string switch well. Yeah, like pretty much, yeah. An interest stream. Scammer. D1 scammer. But yeah, man, we'll probably wrap it up around there, man. But if you guys have like questions on this type of stuff, like I said, this is not everything, so just refer to the stream, man. A lot of the questions that are here are gonna be answered within the stream, because like I said, you're gonna see this type of stuff, and you're gonna wonder like, what if this and that? Well, I haven't covered that, so you're gonna have to wait, you know. So a lot of people are kept asking me about this SMT stuff. It's like, just wait until I cover the stream, because I'm not gonna go in depth for like, you know, your one question, while I could just answer. I could cover that for like, you know, the whole lens, you know. That's like a waste of time, if that makes sense. But yeah, we'll go into more depth eventually. But next stream, probably gonna go over. I don't even know, man. I think maybe entries. I think, or maybe higher time frame narrative. So maybe how to use this on the higher time frame, but also just like weekly logic or something. Yeah, entries. Okay. Oh yeah, how to filter out. That's another stream for sure. How to filter out low probability, because this is something that is like actually like really important, because you guys see me trade a lot. Like my model obviously like prints a lot. Just like T Trade's model, it literally prints every day. There's a swing point every single day. There's a 4-hour profile every single day. But it's like you can't just trade every single day, you know. So this is why I have this like SMT stuff. This is like a filter. This is one of the filters, you know. But there's also other things like framework. You have to have the specific framework, you know. Yeah, I know, but I know like some people see me trade every day and think they can do the same, but they might not have that level of experience, or like they don't have the ability to like filter price, so it can be very damaging, you know. Or they think they can go on the market and trade every single day on any market, but no, that's not the case, you know. Well, I guess no, no. It's like bro, you're not him. All right, should we run a Clash Royale game here? No, I'm just kidding. I have to end this. Yeah, I'll probably end it here. There's no more questions. So yeah, guys. I gotta make slides for entries, bro. I don't have any slides made for that. I don't actually just covered all the slides that I have made. I'm pretty sure. Well, not all of them, but what's up, Kiko? You're muted.
Let's run a 1v1 when the thing is over.
Okay, bet.
And then I'll start my back test.
All right, bet. Oh, you're gonna back this? I'm just gonna end the recording here. Um,